Have you ever looked at someone and thought they had everything figured out? And then realized you were only seeing one version of them? Have you ever been completely wrong about someone just because of how they looked or how other people saw them? This is Fractured Light Uncovered, presented here on YouTube by David's Beauty Bin. Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of Fractured Light Uncovered. I am your host, David Alexander, and today we're doing a bit of a branch off from my Pretty Privilege episode that I released maybe about a month ago. The people we think are the most put together usually just look that way until you actually spend time with them. We don't see people. We see versions of them. The pedestal is built from distance and projection. And more often than not, the person themselves doesn't even agree with the image. The myth doesn't survive in real time. So with that in mind, I wanted to start with a story similar to how I opened up about D in my last episode. Back in January of 2024, I was in Nashville for what I thought was going to be a business opportunity. Things very, very quickly derailed and fell apart, and I ended up getting kicked out of my hotel with almost no notice. It was one of those disorienting, chaotic mornings where everything happens too fast. I did not even have time to look in a mirror. I didn't even feel like I had time to think, let alone figure out what my next move was. I went back to a makeup store to try and return a few things, just to get some money together so I could find another place to stay for a few days. But there wasn't much I could actually return. So I ended up leaving and wandering next door into this small, adorable flower shop. It was quiet, really quaint. One of those places that you can tell was just in Tennessee with that obvious southern charm. There were a few employees behind the counter, and one guy in there who I initially thought worked there. At that point, I was just trying to get my bearings. So I asked if anyone knew where I can grab a shower, maybe a glass of water, maybe a cup of coffee. Just something to give me like 20 minutes to reset. The employees kind of looked at each other and looked very concerned, and then I made eye contact with the guy. He goes, "I know a place. Meet me outside." So I waited. And I waited. 10 minutes turned into maybe about 20, maybe 15. And eventually he comes out. His name was, we'll call him Mark. And in my head, immediately I clocked him as this rugged, masculine, truck-driving guy's guy. Just very well put together on the surface. He comes out, he walks up to me, throws me the flowers he had just bought, and says, "Hop in my truck. I'll take you somewhere." Now, against my better judgment, and hearing how he was coming across, I still got in the truck. He starts the truck, pulls forward maybe 3 feet, and it dies. And we just kind of look at each other. I tried to lighten it a little bit, like, guess my bad luck is extending onto you now. But he wasn't really in the mood to laugh. And honestly, looking back, I don't blame him. He had a stranger in his truck, and now it just stopped working. So instead, in a state of panic, he just calls an Uber. He tells me he has to stop quickly at a sobriety meeting. Says I can just wait outside. And it was a beautiful day, so I did not mind doing that at all. And I'm just going with it. The whole day already felt surreal. We squeeze into this Uber, and I'm just sitting there trying not to spiral any further than I already was. We get to the meeting. I waited outside for a bit. He comes back out, and then we Uber back to his truck. From there, we take it to a mechanic, and somehow we end up spending the entire day together. And as the day goes on, I start to realize something. This guy, this rugged, confident, put together, handsome Spanish guy I thought was getting into a truck with, wasn't that version at all. Because the second we actually started interacting for more than a few minutes, the cracks started to show. Not in a bad way. Not in a slightly concerning way. Just in a human way. He was texting this girl he was supposed to go on a date with that night. Constantly. I assume that is who he was buying the flowers for earlier that day. And I don't mean like casually checking in. I mean every few minutes picking up his phone, responding immediately, double checking, overthinking everything. To the point where I was like, wait a second. At one point, he literally picked up his phone while he was driving, and I just yanked it out of his hand for a second and was like, no, you need to wait. Dude, you are doing way too much. And it was one of those weird, almost ironic moments where I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm coaching this guy on how to talk to women while he's driving, and I'm not even attracted to women. Like, what is happening right now? But that's exactly it. The version of him I had built in my head in that first few seconds of meeting him. The confident, rugged, fully in control guy didn't match the reality of the person sitting next to me. He was anxious. He was overthinking. He needed reassurance. And again, not in a bad way, just human. And then it got a little funnier. Because at one point, he goes to text the girl back and somehow ends up texting his trainer instead. And I'm watching this unfold in real time. And I'm like, oh no. And he basically sends this whole message that reads like he's breaking up with someone to his trainer. And I just remember thinking and saying, I like to think I caused that. Like, this entire chain of events happened because I told him to just pause, take a breath, refocus for a second. And the story doesn't even end there. A few days later, I'm still in town. I'm back in a new hotel. And he texts me, bro, I'm out with a girl. And I go, cool, different one, I hope. And he just goes, yep. And that was it. And I remember sitting there in my hotel room thinking, this is what we don't see. We see the truck, we see the body, we see the confidence, we see the form-fitting clothes. We don't see the guy who can't wait 30 seconds to text someone back without totally panicking. We don't see the overthinking. We don't see their insecurity. We see the image, not the reality behind it. And honestly, this is where I have to circle back to my friend D for a second. Because if you watched that episode, you already know. I've seen both versions of him. There's the version people see online, the one that gets labeled as confident, put together even by one person, a quote-unquote superstar. And then there's the version I actually know. The way he shows up to me. Goofy, imperfect, human. And what's wild is, he's even said it himself. He literally said in an article that I was reading, people see a photo and think I'm cocky, but that's not even the reality. And I think this is the part that really matters. Because D isn't a superstar. He's a human being who just happens to have a very large following that amplifies him online. And I love his humanness more than any number that exists. So you've got all these people projecting onto him this elevated version. And then you've got him quietly being like, that's not actually me. And that's when it really clicked for me. Because it's the same thing as Mark. It's the same archetype. It just reveals itself differently depending on how close you are. People project upward. They take a single image, a single moment, and they fill in all the blanks with no evidence. And the more polished the image is, the bigger the assumptions become. But the truth is, people don't see you. They see what they can project onto you. And sometimes even the person themselves doesn't recognize the version that's being created. And I've realized sometimes I do this too. My brain will take someone, look at the image, look at the numbers, look at the perception, and mentally assign them a level. Like they're operating on some higher tier. But in reality, they're just sitting in a truck, spiraling over a text. And that's not a knock on them. That's the point. The closer you get to someone, the more equal things become. The pedestal only exists from a distance. So whether it's someone you meet in real life or someone you see through a screen, the version you build in your head is almost never the full person. And the moment you actually see them clearly, the whole thing shifts. Because the myth doesn't survive real time. And I think what I want to leave you with is this. Have you ever realized you were completely wrong about someone just because of the version you created in your head? Let me know, because I have a feeling we've all been there. This is Fractured Light Uncovered, presented here on YouTube by David's Beauty Bin.